Hello everyone, welcome to a new video for Bitcoin price prediction based on Elliott wave analysis. This is indicators analysis. We're gonna see what's gonna happen next based on the indicator in confluence, of course, with the Elliott wave scenarios that we have. Highest possibility, of course, that we have an A, B, and a C toward the upside, or we have the following as an ending diagonal as a 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and a 5, of course, after having A, B, and a C. You can watch the deep analysis, of course, in the playlist of the BTC deep analysis. It is the latest video in the playlist. So you can see, of course, what are the potential scenarios for the next week. And before starting with the indicators, I just want to mention today we're going to have also a live stream for altcoins as well and Bitcoin to see what's going to happen for the next week. And of course, don't forget to watch as well the live stream from yesterday. We did a lot of analysis for altcoins as well. So let's move on with the RSI. On the RSI, on the 1 hour chart, we can see we have here a divergence, of course, from the top. It is an exhaustion of buying, of course. And here we go, we're moving a little bit toward the downside. Now, of course, we still lack any signal of bullish divergence. We don't see any of them here on the RSI, so I cannot say that we are very bullish until, of course, we see the RSI opening a divergence with the price action somehow like this. So that means, of course, when you move 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5, potentially you might see the RSI moving toward the downside here, opening a divergence again for, of course, higher prices. We're going to see how this is going to work, of course, in the next price action. And don't forget, today we have a live stream as well, again for the crypto, for some special requests, altcoins, and of course to see the price action for Bitcoin. It looks like we're gonna be impulsive today. We're gonna see some movement for this weekend as well. Another on the 4-hour chart for the RSI, we can see as well, yeah, that we had here, of course, some conversions with the price. Now, if you take this high with this one, you see still, of course, conversions with the tops. And that means, of course, a lot of pressure with the selling. RSI says on the 4-hour chart, we are still in this direction, right, toward the downside, which it might be, of course, yeah, your ending diagonal here, unfolding for a wave 3. On the daily chart for the RSI, we can see simply is this convergence here from the lows. As you can see, it is a convergence, and that doesn't mean that it is a bullish signal, guys. You would like to see, of course, a divergence on the RSI rather than a convergence from the lows. And of course, therefore, you have to consider that this is a simple exhaustion signal for selling, but after this retracement, we might still see further continuation toward the downside. Now, let's take a look at the MACD. Now, on the MACD, the daily chart, we can see, of course, a bullish cross here entering under the zero. Of course, we're still under the zero, but that doesn't mean that we cannot move toward the upside. Of course, the trend can still continue for higher, and we can see, of course, maybe just 1 or 2 daily candles to finish an A, B, and a C and moving toward the upside. Nobody knows. Or it can be, of course, transforming into a 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and a 5. So this might transform, of course, to an impulse. This is what the MACD here shows. It gives a little bit higher potential for the bullish scenario, where we can see, of course, higher prices after this low. So yeah, this is what the MACD says on the daily chart. On the 4-hour chart, we can see, of course, we have an increase with the buy signal here with the volume. Yeah, you see the volume of the buyers increasing with this move towards the upside, while also previously the sellers volume was increasing. So we're gonna see right now, after this huge amount of volume of buyers, we're gonna see, of course, what's gonna happen. We are very close to get a bearish cross. We're gonna see how the reaction is gonna be over there. Now, of course, if we are moving toward the downside for some less volume, and that means, of course, it can be a signal that we might continue toward the upside. Same thing for the MACD, shows a little bit higher potential for the scenario, the impulsive one, toward the upside. While the RSI shows a little bit much more potential for the lower prices, but it can be, of course, the lower prices, as we mentioned, until this far, and then moving toward the upside. Now, on the 1-hour chart for the MACD, we see, well, as you can see on the 1-hour chart, we start to see, of course, the buyers volume is shrinking and moving toward the downside, while the seller volume is moving for higher, right? As you can see, we have higher volume of seller, and of course we already got our bearish cross on the 1 hour chart, and we're moving potentially toward the downside as 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 formation of a wave A or wave 1, and then 2, and then 3, 4, 5, or A, B, and a C. One of these scenarios has to unfold next. On the 5-minute chart for KGT, we can see, of course, that we have a new bearish signal in the top here in convergence with the price action. Of course, we can see, of course, the convergence with the price, very clear signal, and putting pressure, of course, for the selling toward the downside, knowing that this divergence was not really very strong, knowing that we have touched the 886 here, and it might not unfold, of course, a wave 3 as an impulse. Obviously, this is not a diagonal as well. The wave 3 is longer than wave 1, same as for the wave 5, longer than wave 3. And that means, of course, higher potential that this is a corrective wave and you're moving toward the downside. And we got the signal for it, of course, on KGT here. If we want to take a look a little bit wider in a bigger picture for KGT on the 15-minute chart, we can see as well that we have a huge pressure here with the 15-minute chart as well, coming as well from the selling. So several conversions with the price action. We can see very clear high pressure, of course. So currently we're looking for lower prices. We want to see the CVD lines going down again, of course, under this bullish signal. We want to see the price or the line moving under this signal, and of course to keep the price over this price action here, this low. In that way, you can, of course, therefore create a divergence, of course, with the price action and the CVD line in case we don't take the low. So far, the CVD lines shows that, of course, it might move towards the downside, meaning, of course, a pressure for selling right now. And back to the chart with the volume indicator to see further indications here. So you can see, of course, we have two spikes here for the volume, very high amount of volume, where you saw, of course, a very strong wick here, but it has ended up, of course, in 3 waves toward the upside. Of course, indication of a corrective wave. Now you see, of course, another spike here with this wave, which it is a wave C, potentially finished, of course, toward the upside, or a wave A, where you have, you have an A, B, and a C. You potentially have a wave 1 here for your potential diagonal. I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ending diagonal, or it can be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a 5 wave 5, of course, continuously moving toward the upside with an impulse. However, as you can see as well, inside this wave, for the indication of the finished wave, you can see, of course, a high amount of volume exactly here, meaning this wave has finished over there and you're looking right now towards the downside. And of course, this is not a volume for an impulse. This is, of course, the volume here is an indication that this is not an impulse, because in an impulse, you would like to see, of course, first lower amount of volume on the wave 1. You want to see a very high spike on the wave 3, as we can see here, but without this one here. And finally, for the wave 5, you would like to see another spike lower, of course, than the wave 3. So this was not given, meaning, of course, there is no indication of an impulse at all on the volume. The final one indicator we're going to see is the Bollinger Bands. On the daily for the Bollinger Band, we see, of course, that the price action is over the middle band here, the blue zone, where we are moving toward the downside. Now, of course, this blue zone can still play as a support and then continuation toward the upside, or it can, of course, be the wave B after an A, B, and a C, maybe therefore continuation toward the upside in one of the scenario, which it might be, of course, a wave 4 and a 5. Yeah, so this can be as well possible. Well, if we have on the 4-hour chart here, you can see that you are on the red Bollinger Band here in the top, and you're moving toward the downside, toward the blue zone. And potentially we're going to have an A, B, and a C potentially, or even continuation toward the upside as a 4 and a 5. Nobody knows, meaning 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and a 5. However, low possibility based on Elliott wave, because this doesn't look as an impulse. especially that the wave 2 has touched the 886, meaning higher potential is to be an ABC toward the downside. This might be your A here at the blue line, 82K, and then B and a C toward the downside, of course, with confluence with the lower part, yeah, other than then the middle part can be your wave C. Now, if we see a stretch, therefore, of course, we're moving with a wave 3 toward the downside in an ending diagonal. We're going to see how this is going to unfold on the 1 hour chart. Okay, the price is squeezing after having a top here. We have passed the blue line, and potentially we're going to see what the reaction is going to be in this area. If we stretch this down, it's going to be, of course, a wave A or a wave 1 here, finished wave 3, and then you're looking for a wave C, yeah, towards the downside. But this can finish only one wave, A, B, and a C towards the downside. So we're going to see how this is going to unfold. Now, the most important signal is on the 4-hour chart for the Bollinger Band to see, of course, the reaction on the blue zone. Yep, so basically in conclusion, all the indicators shows that, of course, there is a potential for lower prices. Now the MACD as a long term, it shows a little bit for higher prices, but it's still requiring, of course, lower on the lower time frame, 1 hour chart, 4 hour chart. It also says that we need lower prices, but in a long term on the daily, it shows, of course, that we might continue toward the upside, while other signals, of course, still showing a potential for lower prices. We're gonna see how this is gonna unfold. Which scenario is gonna be? Is it this one with WX and a Y, where you are requiring a move towards the downside and continuation for higher, as the MACD shows, or even the RSIs show as well, the KGT, or are we gonna move towards the downside continuously? Of course, this area where it has to be reanalyzed, of course, as well with the indicators to see what's gonna happen. Don't forget today, of course, that we're gonna have a live stream as well for some special requests for the altcoins. I'm gonna schedule, of course, the time, and you can watch it, of course, on the page of this channel when we gonna start. That was it for Bitcoin indicators analysis. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your likes and comments, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.